We are we're live on YouTube. Welcome. Good to see you all. Thanks for tuning in today. And I want to start by talking a little bit about Dolores Cannon. And I know a lot of you that follow this channel have a good affinity with Dolores. You've probably seen many of her videos here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, places I share it. One of my favorite quotes from Dolores Cannon is that we are here to manipulate energy. It's probably the number one question that I get asked almost all the time is, Paul, what does that mean? Like, surely the word manipulation is got to be negative, because I always hear negative things about manipulation, to manipulate people, to manipulate circumstances. How can this be something that I would want in my life? To manipulate energy, to harness its power, to mold, to shape, to manifest is all that I'm going to cover today. And if you notice the title as you're tuning in today, and maybe let me know what part of the world you are joining me from. We always get people from all over the world. We get people from the United States of America, and we get people from Europe, and here where I am here in Australia, we always get people from all over. So maybe if you're tuning in right now, you can let me know in the chat. Let me know where you are joining from just as you're jumping on. But we're going to talk about manipulating energy. We're going to talk about breakdown, and we're going to be talking about breakthroughs. Breaking down. Things are breaking down. What does that mean to experience a breakdown? What does it feel like to experience a breakdown? We're going to cover all of that in this live today. So I welcome all of you just as you're jumping on. It's great to see someone in there already, but people watch on replay, so that's all good. So today I'm going to cover essential areas. These are identifying breakdowns in your life. So it's working out, what is it? What's bothering you? What's breaking down? What are you moving through? We're going to look at conquering fear and embracing courage. We're going to look at transforming breakdowns into breakthroughs, as I spoke about. We're going to liberate and learn about liberation, liberating ourselves from the past, and learning how to really step into what I call the present moment. We're going to look at adopting a powerful mindset. You know, Dolores Cannon in her teachings spoke a lot about mindset, about the power of thoughts. And of course, manipulating energy to enhance your life. I call it living with intention. I call it living on purpose with purpose. And I think many of us know people in our lives, maybe we've been there ourselves, where their negativity brings them down. I'm going to talk about strengthening your connection with your higher self. Now, what does that mean? The psychiatrists have one name for it. They call it the right side of the brain. Dolores Cannon actually defined it as them, and we're going to look at that as well, because a lot of people get confused as to who are they? You know, who are they? We're going to look at attracting positivity, abundance. You know, these things can sometimes have almost negative connotations in our mind. And I've experienced this with many people I work with, because they may have a negative association with abundance. Even with happiness, you know, some people feel undeserving, that they should be happy because of upbringing and belief structure. So we're going to look at that. I'm going to give you tools and techniques and exercises that you can apply to your own life. So let's dive into this. You know, what is a breakdown stage? What does that look like for an individual? The breakdown stage in one's life presents itself through many different ways. It may be challenge, it may be obstacles, it's kind of like a time in your life, and I went through this recently actually, so I'm really relating to what I'm talking about now, where it seems that everything is falling apart. And you might feel overwhelmed. You might feel lost or even powerless. However, it is essential to understand that the breakdown stage is a natural part of life cycle. It can bring you incredible opportunity for growth, for transformation, for expansion as we approach that area in our life. But when we approach it with the right mindset and also tools, so we can recognize when we are going through this and then have the tools to actually get out of it. Because, it's kind of like building a house. If you didn't have tools or access to tools, you don't have any mechanism to build. And it's the same, exactly the same in our lives. Some of you have been feeling stuck, feeling stagnant personally, professionally in your professional life. Some people are experiencing loss of passion, enthusiasm for goals, their dreams. They had dreams, but they feel that they're not moving in the right trajectory. It might be stuck in a job. Some of you are struggling with emotional, mental turmoil, anxiety, depression, fear. It's a big one, fear. Fear of life, fear of death, fear of living, that we forget to live. Any significant challenge or obstacles. Going through unexpected changes, such as the end of a relationship, a loss of a job, a health crisis. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your current life situation. Can you identify any of these signs in your life right now? So you may be in the midst of a breakdown stage right now. So let's look at some of the signs. And let's discuss how we can turn these challenges into opportunities for growth, for our personal growth, for our spiritual growth, for our evolutionary growth. The first step is to shift your perspective. This is a really big one, and to recognize that the breakdown stage is actually, it might surprise some of you, necessary for your personal evolution. Embracing this understanding can help us cultivate resilience, courage, optimism. And then you will begin to identify the lessons and growth opportunities that our breakdown stage. You might ask yourself these questions. What is this situation teaching me about myself and about my life? How can I use this experience to grow, to evolve? What new perspectives, strengths can I develop in response to these challenges? Just where you're sitting watching this right now, I want you just to take a few moments. You don't need to write it down. You can write it down if you'd like. But I want you to write down some insights, things that come to mind. Remember that the breakdown stage in an individual's life is often a catalyst to transform. And we can turn our challenges into powerful catalysts for change. I've done this. Clients that I work with have done this. So many people are doing this as they're traversing a breakdown in their life to break through. I mentioned earlier that fear is a really, really big one for people. So when we identify the breakdown stage and we recognize the potential for growth, we begin to conquer fear and we begin to embrace courage. Fear is actually a natural response to the unknown. It can serve as a barrier to many things in our life, including transformation. It holds us back, it keeps us stuck. But when we realize that we have the power to choose how we respond to fear, that is what I call the liberation point. When we acknowledge, when we accept that fear is natural, it's a natural part of human emotion. And when you allow yourself to feel that without judgment or resistance, when you see fear as an opportunity instead of perceiving fear as a threat, when you view it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop new skills and strengths, when you take small, malleable steps, you break your fear down into smaller, manageable tasks, and you begin to take action to overcome them one step at a time. When we cultivate self-compassion and be kind and gentle with yourself, because a lot of people berate, they beat ourselves up. We do it. I used to do it all the time. We beat ourselves up for our struggles. I believe it's more important than ever to surround ourselves with supportive, positive people. If you're connected to negativity in your life, if you're watching negative shows, if you're watching negative movies, if you're having negative conversations with people, you're inviting negativity in your life. And I don't say it as a judgmental comment. I say it to just bring a sense of awareness, because I used to do this. I used to love engaging in negative talk, negative conversations. I want you to consider this, okay? And actually ask yourself, what fears are holding you back from embracing change and transformation in your life? Everyone I speak to always says that they love the idea of change. They love this idea of change. We all love change. We all want change. But if you ask someone the same question in a little bit of a different way, if they want to change, all of a sudden, generally, and I speak in person, so the room gets really quiet. And very few hands go up, where before everyone's hand went up when you invite people if they like the notion of change. When we change the way we look at things, and this is a quote actually of the great Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is an amazing spiritual teacher who many of you may know. Maybe let me know in the chat if you've heard any of Wayne speak, any of his recordings, and if you've read any of his books. He said very famously, and I almost quote this daily, is that when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at, they change also. They change. Perception. Dolores Cannon spoke a lot about it in her work, in her books. Manipulating energy, mindset. So as we continue our journey through the breakdown stage, and we're looking at breakdown now, I want you to explore how you can transform your own challenges into breakthroughs. So a breakdown is a sudden, significant shift in perspective. It's a shift in understanding. It's a ability to move forward through adversity. The breakdown happens. The breakthrough, you stand at the precipice of the breakthrough. What we resist persists in our experience. You've probably heard that many times. Many people share that. So quite a well-known saying. We have to face the things that are uncomfortable about ourselves. We have to face our own negativity. We have to get really honest with ourselves. This is crucial for you to transverse from the breakdown to the breakthrough. And it's not, as I said earlier, it's not beating yourself up. It's accepting that you are where you are, that we create our reality, good, bad, or indifferent, and we let it go. And that's how simple it can be, because when you have an ability to learn, when you have an ability to grow, when you have an ability to adapt in the face of challenges and view your setbacks as opportunities for growth, for learning, when you practice things like mindfulness, self-reflection, when you regularly check in with yourself, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your behaviors, and when you make necessary adjustments to align your goals and values. And this is one that I think a lot of us struggle with, but when you seek support, when you seek guidance, it might be a trusted friend, it could be a mentor, it could be a professional who can provide guidance and provide encouragement and provide perspective as you navigate your breakdown stage. It is so important that we celebrate our progress, our accomplishments, that we acknowledge, that we celebrate our achievements, both big and even the small things. As you work through your own challenges, as you work through your own life, you begin to, as Wayne Dyer said, see your life very differently. It might be the past. You know, I grew up with a pretty uncomfortable childhood. And for years I held on to negativity and resentment and unforgiveness, and it just kept me stuck. It wasn't affecting anybody else except me. So I had to take responsibility. I want to ask you, what specific actions can you take to embrace change, to embrace uncertainty in your life? How can you cultivate a growth mindset and view your setbacks as opportunities for learning and for growth? What support systems do you have in place? How can you utilize them? How can you utilize them to navigate this breakdown stage that I'm talking about? You might want to write some of this down. You might want to journal it down. and begin to create a plan for your transformation, from moving from breakdown to breakthrough. Remember that every challenge that you face offers an opportunity to grow, to learn. You know, as we continue to walk along our transformation journey, as we begin to anchor ourselves in the present moment, we begin to become what I call, and many spiritual teachers and books and videos on YouTube that you listen to say all the same thing. We begin to become self-actualized, self-aware. So forgiveness for me was so crucial in my journey. It was actually Dolores Cannon, believe it or not, that was the first person that really resonated with me on the area of forgiveness. She said, in her straight, roundabout way, and she was very direct when she often communicated. And, you know, she said it like this. She said, you know, if you don't forgive, you're not coming into the new earth. You're not coming into the new energies. And it hit me like a freight train. I remember I was standing in a park at the time listening on my headphones to her speak. And in that single moment, I made a decision that I was going to forgive. I recognized that my thinking was outdated. I recognized that my thinking was self-limiting. I recognized that it was holding me back. When we cultivate self-awareness, when we regularly check in with ourselves and assess our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, and make any necessary adjustments, we begin to self-actualize and we begin to embrace the power of the now. You might have read that book by Eckhart Tolle. When we practice mindfulness, when we practice presence, when we bring our focus rather than the past, you know, for me it was ruminating in my mind all of the things that they did to me. When we bring our focus, when we bring our attention to the current moment that we're in, and see this moment as an opportunity. When we see that this moment is your point of power, when we do that rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future as people do, when we create a new story for ourselves, when we focus on our strengths, our accomplishments, the lessons that we have learned along the way, and everything changes. We begin to shift from breakdown, where we identify with all of it's another thing. It's another thing going wrong. Come on, you've had these conversations with yourself. I know you have, because most people have. How do we practice forgiveness? I talked about it. How do we practice it? And I'm not just talking about forgiving your ex-partner, your parents, the boss, that friend that betrayed you. I'm talking about forgiving yourself, releasing yourself from the past, creating a new story, writing a new script. Dolores Cannon spoke a lot about this in her teachings, that we create our reality, that we write our own story, that we are the director, the main actor, the producer and the main scriptwriter in our own play, she went on to say in that talk that she gave, many of you have probably seen that, maybe let me know in the chat if you have, because it's powerful, that if we don't like the way the script is playing out, if we don't like the story, if we don't like our own narrative, change it, because the script is actually being written, contrary to what you might think, as it goes along. You know, we're never really stuck. We may feel powerless, we may feel stuck, we may feel like life's handed us a bad deck of cards. I used to think that way. But mindset, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, all about mindset and Dolores Cannon's teachings around mindset, because I've read all of her books. But we can use and create intentionally rather than leaving it to chance. Because we create our reality, good, bad, indifferent. We create a reality whether we like it or not. You may have created a set of circumstances in your life that you don't like. I did. I didn't liberate myself by judging myself. I liberated myself by taking responsibility and letting it all go. And that's how simple it can be. It's a redirection. You know, it's like you're driving down the road and there's two roads ahead. You can either go left or right. It's a fork in the road. You either go in one direction or you go in another. It's as simple as that. It's changing course. It's changing direction. Dolores Cannon spoke a lot in her work and her many books. And some of you, maybe you can let me know in the chat if you've read any of her books or you've had a QHHT session that she developed over 45 years. But she studied over that time frame the subconscious mind and the power of the subconscious mind. She learned how powerful the mind was, and that the mind holds deep wisdom, and that it can be a powerful ally in our transformational journey. She spoke in her books about the interconnectedness of all things, that everything is interconnected in the universe, and that your thoughts and that your beliefs and that your actions have a profound impact on your reality. You know, she dealt with the importance of self-love and self-acceptance and embracing ourselves fully, acknowledging our strengths, acknowledging our weaknesses, our unique qualities, and cultivating self-love and self-acceptance as the foundation for growth and for healing. Quantum healing hypnosis technique. It's a profound tool that she refined over a really long time, almost 50 years. That really just what I've said is a very practical way of achieving. You know, every session that I do with clients, the number one thing that comes up, I wonder if you can guess what it is. The higher selves come through, the higher awareness, the higher consciousness comes through. It's always the same message. I can guarantee it. Had enough of these sessions. You need to love yourself more. You need to accept yourself more. You need to embrace yourself more. You know, when you believe in your innate ability to heal and to transform your life, and to trust in your own power. That's where everything changes. When you take responsibility for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your actions, and when you understand that you are not some God with a white beard in heaven making the decisions, that when you accept, I grew up in the church, so this was an evolution for me to accept this, that when I accepted, when you accept that we are the creator of our reality, then it's a portal in to this higher dimension that begins to open up into your life. And that, my friends, is the transformational moment. That is the moment that you shift from breakdown to breakthrough. That is where you begin to manipulate energy. That's when you begin to create by intentionality, that I call it. So you might ask me, Paul, how did Dolores Cannon define it? How do I tap into the power of the subconscious mind to support my growth, to support my transformation? How can I cultivate self-love in my daily life? How can I take greater responsibility for my thoughts, my beliefs, my actions? Remember that your mindset is a powerful tool. And it's either going to hinder your growth, or when you take responsibility, it's going to be the strong foundation for your lasting transformation. So let's look at the concept of manipulating energy. So as we continue to transform, as we continue to explore consciousness, everything in the universe is made of energy, including your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. When we learn to work with this energy, we can begin to create more harmonious, abundant, fulfilling relationships, a more fulfilling life. You know, we begin to experience more synchronicities in our life. I talked about negativity before, and one of the really important things that you need to do, and I want you to listen to this because this is really important. It's so important internally that we begin to cleanse and release negative energy in our physical, in our emotional, and our mental spaces through practices such as meditation. You know, I've smudged and done clearing of spaces. This is really important because, you know, Dolores Cannon spoke a lot about this, is that everything has energy. You know, I'm about to share a reel on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook tomorrow of Dolores Cannon sharing this concept that even the table that maybe you're sitting at when you eat, or the chair that you're sitting in right now, or the bed you're laying on right now listening to this, wherever you are, all those things around you, they are energy. Everything is energy. So our words, our thoughts, they are all part of this energy. So when we clear out the negativity, and when we begin to actively create and maintain positive energy in our life, when we do it through gratitude, when we do it through visualization, when we do it through affirmations, when we begin to set healthy boundaries, when we begin to transmute, as I like to call it, energy, when we align with our higher self, with our higher awareness, when you connect your higher self through meditation, through journaling, through spiritual practices, when you allow its wisdom coming, this high aspect of yourself, when you allow this wisdom, this guidance to support your growth and transformation, then you become multi-dimensional. And a lot of us are learning about multi-dimensionality now as we're moving through 4-dimensional reality. We're moving into 5-dimensional reality. So you might ask, how can you become aware of the energy within, the energy around? I might welcome you to just give this a moment of thought, but are you practicing any of these practices? Are you meditating? Are you creating an internal environment that is conducive to hear the voice of your higher self? You know, for a lot of us, it's setting and establishing healthy energetic boundaries with others to actually protect ourselves. And I know a lot of people, you know, that might be watching this, might be watching the replay, might be watching it live, have had narcissistic people in their life. And you might be an empathic person and you have attracted that into your life, maybe unconsciously, maybe consciously, maybe you're not even aware of it. But how do we begin to establish healthy, energetic boundaries with others? How can we begin to maintain better synchronicity in our personal lives? A lot of us are asking these really pivotal questions at the moment as we're going through this huge evolutionary shift that we're all experiencing. You know you are. This is the breakdown stage that I talk about. So how do we focus on connection with our higher self? With this wise self, this intuitive self, with this loving aspect of yourself that does exist in all of you, by the way. It exists beyond the limitations of your ego, beyond the limitations of your form. And by you cultivating a strong connection with your higher self, when you can access its wisdom, when you can access its guidance to support you in your journey through growth and transformation, when you can do that, everything changes, everything transforms. So let's talk about strategies. So for you right now, and I know a lot of you are resonating with this because you're sticking around, you're listening to what I've got to say. I want to challenge you to regularly meditate. And what's meditation? Sometimes it's just quieting the mind. It's opening the channel to connect with your higher self. That's all it is. It's creating an internal environment that is conducive to hear. You see, the egoic mind is communicating with us all the time. It's pretty loud in our head. The higher self does not compete for airtime with the ego. It is that quiet, still voice that communicates with you. It's always communicating. You know, if you've got the music blaring at home, if you've got the home pod on, or you're listening to music at home, or whatever device, Alexa, it's blaring out music really loudly. And, you know, you've got a baby in the house and it's crying softly. really, really softly. Or if you've got a pet that's crying, or there's sounds in your environment, the music is going to drown out any sounds. This is what happens with the higher self. So when we practice mindfulness, when we stay in the present moment, when we cultivate an attitude of openness and curiosity, this allows a much deeper connection with the higher self. You know, when we engage in exercises like journaling and self-reflection, when we write about our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences, it helps us gain insight. It helps us get clear. Trust in ourselves is something many of us struggle with. We are all, contrary to what you might think, contrary a lot of people think. Some people are intuitive and some people aren't. A lot of people will even say that, won't they? Is, well, I'm really intuitive. Or they might call themselves a medium or a psychic and have a particular gift that they're utilizing as a career. But we are all intuitive beings. You know, I go to the gym and I physically exercise and work out almost every day. And a lot of people say, oh, you're, fit and healthy looking. I'm only fit and healthy looking because I'm consistently consistent around my physical health. That's the only reason. Because I cultivate via action a routine that creates a physical reality. It is the same with our intuition. It is exactly the same. I love using these analogies because they do help us. They do help us understand concepts that may be foreign to us, that we can't visualize clearly. This is like an intuitive muscle, like a physical muscle, that the more you work it, the more it expands and grows. And it's as simple as that. You know, we might want to be more intuitive, but we have to practice that. We have to cultivate it. I can't just sit there and look at fit, healthy people that run and go to the gym and manifest that for myself. No, I have to create by action. Action's a really important one. We all need to take action. It's a big part, and often in the spiritual community, which, I'm sure that most of you are watching this, otherwise you would have turned off. You wouldn't have made it this far anyway. We love this idea of that we can sit back and not have to really do anything. Come on, I know I'm speaking to people. Or we want to pay a psychic to give us the answer, or we'll read a self-help book or do a workshop, and then we really don't want to do perhaps the harder thing, which is the consistently showing up for yourself. That is the challenge, isn't it? How many of us give up? We read that book and we don't finish it. Or we start a meditation practice and after a month or 2 months or 3 months, we stop meditating because we get busy, we get distracted. With my gym analogy, I'll come back to it. The only reason I obtain the physical health that I do, and this happens with running, because I went through a stage where I stopped running, and guess what? I was running 40 minutes a day, an hour a day. Well, when I started back running again, I couldn't run for 20 minutes without being exhausted. It took me time to get back to where I was at. So it is consistency. Same with meditation, same with intuition, all of these things. What habits, what practices can you incorporate into your day to deepen your connection with your higher self? And there are many things. I just mentioned meditation. You know, when we remember that we are a spiritual being having a human experience rather than the other way around, when we realize that we are creating our reality, good, bad, or indifferent, it suddenly leaves us with an enormous amount of responsibility. And some people don't like that word because it can be very awkward and uncomfortable. I understand that. A lot of people like to identify with a victim mentality, and I know this can be controversial when it's said. And they derive a sense of self from poor me. And did you hear about all my problems? Did you hear about how I can't get a relationship, or every relationship that I get in never works? And guess what? None of their relationships ever work. Why? Why? Because there are lucky people and there are unlucky people. What a simplistic way to look at the world. But we've all been there. We've all done it. But when we take responsibility, when we create by intentionality, when we actually do the practice, not just talk about it. And come on, you know what I'm talking about. Meditation is a perfect example. We all read and know meditation has enormous benefits, and that main one is accessing the higher self, the higher awareness. But I'll ask you this, are you doing it daily? Are you showing up for, not for me, not for what other people think, for you, for yourself? Are you showing up for you? That is the question. You know, the number one thing I think everybody would say in a conversation, you ask them what they really want in life, and most people will have the exact same response. They will say, Paul, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I want to attract positivity. I want to attract a level of abundance in my life. I don't want to struggle. We all have the same needs as the human race. It makes us human. Contentment, really, I think, synonymous with happiness, true happiness anyway. And I'm not talking about fleeting happiness in acquisitions of the stuff that we get caught up in, or the people we get caught up in, the relationship that's going to make you happy, and the next moment, give it some time, is the same thing that's making you miserable. One of the biggest tools that I used in my life when I recognized that I was creating my reality was to begin to action within it, by intention, gratitude. When I began to cultivate gratitude, when I began to regularly express gratitude for all of the blessings in my life, for the big things, for the small things. The act of doing this is really, really powerful. Maybe you can give me some examples for you when you have done this for yourself. This opens the door magnetically to attract more positivity, more abundance, more synchronistic relationships, because you're sending out an energetic vibration to the universe, and you're saying, I want to magnetize with this energy. I want to create more of this in my life. And so life does what it does. It responds to your vibration. The universe does not give you what you want. The universe gives you what you are. And when you are vibrating at a higher frequency, when you're expressing and practicing and cultivating gratitude in your life, the universe by default will bring more of that into your experience, because you are magnetizing with the universe. You are co-creating with the universe. You know, when you're grateful, you begin to focus on solutions, not problems. You begin to shift your mindset. Dolores Cannon spoke a lot about mindset in her books, if you've read them. When you shift your mindset from dwelling on problems to seeking solutions and opportunities for growth and learning. When you begin to surround yourself with positive influences, when you choose to spend time rather than those negative people that you maybe had in the past, that uplift you, that inspire you, that support you, that support your happiness. When you practice self-care, when you practice self-compassion, when you prioritize your well-being, when you treat yourself with kindness, with patience, with understanding, when you define your goals, when you define your desires, when you take inspired action and you create a life that aligns with your values and your passions, everything changes. You shift from breakdown to breakthrough. It's really as simple as all of that. And I know most of you have probably heard everything I'm saying. So I'm serving as a reminder for what you really already know, because, you know, everything that you've ever sought externally is within you. And all really I am here to do is to act as a reminder. Or it might be, you know, you're listening to a Dolores Cannon video. It's a reminder. Or it might be Louise Hay or someone else, another influencer. They're there to remind you what you already know at a higher level of consciousness. So you might want to ask, Paul, how do I set clear intentions? How do I use goals to create a life that aligns with my values and passions? How do I attract positivity? How do I attract abundance and lasting happiness? Remember that your mindset, your intentions, your actions, they play a significant role in shaping your reality. And by focusing on the strategies that I've spoken about, you can begin to create a life that truly is fulfilling. You know, I'm going to close with this because I've spoken for almost an hour now. I'll leave this at an hour. You know, one of the biggest struggles I faced when I began my spiritual journey. And it was about 14 years ago. Actually, it's probably 16 years ago now. I've been saying 14 years ago for the last 2 years. Between 14 and 16 years ago, a while. And it began through reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it led on to Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and I did that all alone. You know, and back then there wasn't social media in the same way, with people sharing in the way, and there wasn't the content I was finding on YouTube, and I really was going to bookstores and finding old books, or getting into like secondhand bookstores and finding some of these really old books, and it was a really lonely journey. And, you know, you'd hear about these wonderful speakers, and then you'd hear they'd passed on and become saddened by it. But I felt very isolated and alone. And one of the big things when I began to connect with my purpose was I wanted to be a catalyst and a connector for people. And that is why I'm doing it. This is why I make the videos I do, and I feature people like Dolores Cannon, because I feature people that have inspired me. And I share Louise Hay and her teachings. But really my mission and my goal ultimately is to connect and to help people. You know, my main thing is I'm about the people. I want to help people because, one, I've been there. You know, I've been depressed, I've been isolated, I've been alone in my spiritual journey and my awakening. I struggled with many things. And I feel a great sense of responsibility because I've alchemized all of this in my life. You know, when I was in a career that paid quite well, however, it wasn't my true purpose. So life pulled me out of that and pushed me here. I'm here not to dictate, not to be up here and you down there. I'm just here to guide and remind you of who and what you truly are, what you've always been, that you forgot that you were, that I forgot that I was before I awoken, before I actualized. But I recognize it's not easy to do on your own. I get messages on Instagram, I get messages on TikTok, I get messages on Facebook, and of course YouTube every single day with and emails and questions from people saying, how do I? Give me the how-tos. I'm going to be sharing a link to a masterclass that I'm going to be running very shortly. I'm just confirming dates. I'm going to share the link in the description of this live today. I decided that when I put together this masterclass, I wanted it to be interactive. And so I'm going to keep it really, really small. I'm going to do 10 people. So this way I get to work with people one-on-one, and as a really small group online, we can interact with each other over 3 weeks. Over 3 consecutive weeks, we're going to do a masterclass where we are going to take Dolores Cannon's teachings. We're going to take my teachings, my life experience, and I've put a lot of my life's energy and all the research I've done around what Dolores Cannon and hypnosis and all of these new ways of thinking around neuroscience. I've formulated and I've put it all together into a master class to give people all of the practical steps on how everything I've talked about today, of the how-tos. And there's going to be a group that I'm going to create that we can chat every day about our experience and any disappointments or limitations. That I'm creating community here, 10 people. I really got a strong message. Don't make it bigger than 10 because people will feel not as connected. If this resonates with you, if you want to get on board with me and you want to actually say enough is enough, let's go on this journey together, because I tell you, it's going to be out for a day. I'm doing another workshop tomorrow where I'm speaking about this. So if this is resonating with you, I'm going to share the link just after this where you can sign up for the 3-week masterclass. And we'll, the group of 10 that decide to come on board, we will work out some dates collectively together as a group that work for everybody. And I'll also make it to that group available on demand. So if you miss one, you can, I'll email you the link and you can come back and watch it. Thanks for tuning in today. I think I've been at an hour. Oh, I'm just over an hour. Sending you love. I hope to see you in the masterclass. You know, if that resonates with you. And hey, if it doesn't resonate with you, please don't sign up. You're taking a seat of someone that really probably wants to do the work. And you know, there's no judgment in that. You know, we're all where we should be. You know, we're at different stages along our evolutionary journey, and some at a more beginning stage. No reason to judge people. But if you feel ready and you feel compelled and that resonates with you, I'm going to share the link just after this goes, which is when this is posted on YouTube, and you can click on that link and you can sign up. I'll see you next time I do a live. Much love to you and namaste.